Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. I am literally coming on here just to go over this ridiculous tweet that was posted today by Jennifer Coffindaffer. Now, I've become really disgusted lately, especially in this case, the Idaho case, with the way that several of these former insert agency and position in said agency here people have been using these old labels for what they used to be in order to spread a fake and false agenda. And my viewers here in this beautiful world of mine know that I absolutely loathe Jennifer Coffindaffer. I feel like she is a paid actress, that she follows the narrative of whoever is paying her for her time at that said moment. And I wasn't really too sure about exactly how I felt about her until the stuff with the ID cards happened. Because, and I've mentioned this before, the ID cards that were found in a glove in a box in Bryan Kohberger's parents' home in Pennsylvania whenever they did a search after his arrest, she went on News Nation with Chris Cuomo and they did an entire thing about how those IDs were linked to King Road. Well, then Dateline then had Jennifer Coffindaffer come on and made her give remarks on how those actually were not linked to King Road. And she had no issue giving her backward stance on both narratives. She's a paid actress, okay? This was brought to my attention earlier today whenever I was in Dago's live. One of his viewers mentioned this and I went and grabbed it and we were looking at it. And I just felt felt compelled to bring this to you guys' attention because it just tells you a lot. And you're going to understand why I felt like this was important whenever we're done here. It is hot, so I had to put my hair up, but we're going to go ahead and continue. Now, this tweet is what Jennifer Coffindaffer deems to be the pluses that the defense side has and the pluses that the prosecution side has. And this just shows me that she has not read a single legal document herself. It really just does. And you're, like I mentioned, you're going to understand exactly where I'm coming from once we're done with this. So, according to her, the only two, okay, that little Miss FBI thinks that the defense has on their side is Bryan Kohberger's sudden ability to wear a suit without having his handcuffs, and the fact that no victim DNA was found in searching Bryan's car, home, office, etc. Okay, well, for one, he's been wearing a suit since the last hearing. I don't know why she's deeming this a valid point right now. It's actually kind of an immature viewpoint, honestly, if you really think about it. Oh, he can wear a suit instead of orange. Let's just make that a big deal. I don't find that a big deal. Now, when it comes to the prosecution side, she's got a huge list. And this list is 90% bullshit, okay? Her first one is cell phone information linking him to 1122 King Road on multiple occasions. Okay, well, phone pings don't mean anything until we get the more precise information that came from the FBI cast team. And that is something that the defense is asking for, that the state doesn't have possession of, that they're waiting on the FBI to give them, that the FBI probably will come up with an excuse with. So that one, in my opinion, until the cast information can be compared by the opposing team, null and void. There is such a huge mile radius on just phone towers. He could have literally been at any house in that area within like a 10 to 15-mile radius. Okay, he could have been at any house in those little like 10 neighborhoods that touch each other for it to show that he pinged in that location. That doesn't mean anything to me. The next one is his Elantra on video in the early morning hours between and after the murders. Okay, prove it. Prove it. The only thing that we are hearing about from from both sides when it comes to any footage of the car, we're hearing that the only footage that is being validated to the defense is apparently at the wrong time with a car going in the wrong direction off of Walenta/Ridge Road. Okay. They have never once, and I've mentioned this 1,000 times at this point, they have never once shown us a snippet, a screenshot, a screen grab, a 5-second clip, a nothing of the say ring camera footage or traffic cam footage or whatever footage they have of this white Hyundai Elantra that matches Bryan's. The only thing that came out of anything that happened that night, besides the police body cam footage of the incident at the band field, was the 7-Eleven photo that was released from Bryan Inton and never spoken of by law enforcement ever once. The 7-Eleven photo that everyone is going off of has never been talked about by law enforcement. That literally came from Bryan Inton from News Nation and him alone. That's it. That's it. Okay? So we cannot even validate it was his car because they have yet to actually show us the car. And whenever you have a bolo for, hey, we need to be on the lookout for this vehicle, I don't understand. If you have all the things that the PCA says that you have, you wouldn't have shown us a physical photo of the car. It doesn't make sense. Okay, on we go. Description fitting him given by DM. Okay, well, we can also come back and state that kids that age, teenagers that age, do not state clad in black unless they have a military background or a law enforcement background of some sort. And then the descriptions that this statement says came from Dylan, we don't really know that, do we? Because we have not seen any statements at all from Bethany or Dylan. We've only seen a recollection that is written in the PCA from Payne that was then copy and pasted into Blaker's. We don't have any actual statements from them. So when it comes to the actual description that was given, we have bushy eyebrows, clad in black, which she didn't say, and about 5'10". That's a very, very, very vague and generic description of a person. Next, cell phone being turned off during murders. Okay, but that cell phone being turned off is also a reason why it's really difficult for them to just claim that he was in that neighborhood based off cell phone pings. Because unless they can come out and produce footage of him parking, getting out, walking in the house, walking back out, getting in his car and leaving, and we can physically see it, if his phone was turned off, how else are you going to prove that? How else are you going to prove that? Next, items seized from him matching description of what DM described. You mean black clothes, like how almost every single thing that I have in my closet and that my emo teenagers have in their closet is black? How 90% of the entire population of the planet have mostly black clothes, especially guys? Nothing. Nothing that was seized from him screams anything other than awkward male human criminology student. That's all that is to me. You have black clothes, you have weapons. Okay, cool. He was a dude. And then you have these books that he had and all this stuff that they found. None of it screamed a red flag to me. Like literally none of it. Then we have him packing and disposing of trash with gloves before arrest. Okay, well, I mentioned this on Dago's Live too. The only instances of Bryan Kohberger wearing gloves after the murders was this instance that we don't even have on body cam, guys. We have no physical proof that this is real because they're telling us that at the time of his arrest, all those 50 to 60 boots on the ground that were there for his arrest, there's not any body cam. None at all of one of the most high profile murder case arrests in like the last however many decades. There's no body cam footage of them blasting into his house at 4:00 in the morning. And he just so happened to be sitting there sorting trash in his shorts and his gloves. None of that's on camera. And the only other thing that we're hearing about him wearing gloves is the day later on in the same day of the murders when he goes south and goes to the coffee shop and goes to Albertsons. He's wearing gloves at Albertsons, where they don't say he's wearing gloves at the coffee shop. And none of the students that he still had class with after the fact, I mean, they commented on his maybe behavioral changes and a couple of other things, but none of them ever mentioned A, injuries, or B, he ever wearing gloves in class. So that's only 2 instances, and both instances we've seen no actual proof of. And germaphobes, wear gloves. And a lot of people still wear gloves in public places like grocery stores, even after the pandemic, because those places are petri dishes. I mean, I probably should wear gloves when I go to the grocery store, just so I don't bring a bunch of nasty stuff home to my kids. So again, it's not really a big deal to me. Oh, and then she has this next one of him cleaning his car. Okay, well, everybody cleans their car, okay? And the only instance that we have of him cleaning his car is weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks later after a cross country trip with his father through snow and nasty weather. And he goes and he checks his car out and gets it washed and cleaned after a 2,500-mile road trip. That seems really freaking normal to me. And I highly doubt that if he did this, he would have waited until he got to Pennsylvania all these weeks later to clean his car for the first time. He would have waited all those weeks and had his dad in the car and traveled all the way across the country and waited until then to clean his car of all of the evidence for the first time. No, I'm sorry. No. No known alibi at this time, okay? I mean, look, I want to know too. But he's also kind of claiming that Bethany has exculpatory evidence. So even though we don't know the subject matter of that, so say exculpatory evidence, to me, that's sort of like a half-ass alibi to me a little bit. Okay, I know we want to know precisely what his statement would be for this alibi, but to me, that's kind of like a half-ass alibi. Okay. Ticketed near 1122 King Road. Okay, again, that goes back the same way I can say for the cell phone stuff. He could have just been in that area, visiting literally anybody that lived in any of those houses in that entire college area, anyone. It doesn't put him at King Road. It doesn't. Blood at apartment. And then here she contradicts herself about this being a plus, because then she states, although void of victim DNA. So how is there blood at his apartment that has nothing to do with the victims in this case, a plus for the prosecution? Now, if they did some sort of crazy analysis on that blood and it's not Bryan Kohberger's, and somehow the blood that was found at Bryan Kohberger's apartment is linked to another case of another victim somehow, and they're just keeping that hush hush, I could see that as being a plus for the prosecution, obviously. But they haven't come out and said anything when it comes to whose blood was actually found. And we've talked about this blood. We've talked about it because this is the blood evidence that was taken whenever they did the apartment search for Bryan Kohberger that was mishandled, okay, by WSU officer Don Daniels for 10 days. It was not with the rest of the evidence. It was not put away with the rest of the evidence the way that it was supposed to have been. It was not put where it needed to be until 10 days later when Don Daniels met up with Ann Taylor at Bryan Kohberger's apartment and personally handed it over to Ann Taylor. 10 days. So now the defense is telling us there is no explanation for there being no evidence from the victims on and in anything Bryan Kohberger. Okay, well, that also means that the blood wasn't the victim's, but whose was it? I wish they would have just came out and been like, the blood that was found in his apartment was his own, because then we would know for sure. But that being sort of like an open thing, there's a couple different ways that could go. I'm hoping that it's just his own blood. Okay, I'm hoping. If it's not, though, that'll be interesting. Okay, now then she states, anchor of case. The DNA found on sheath underneath victim's body, which, yes, that is what the prosecution believes is what is going to hang Bryan, because the documents state that the strength of his guilt relies on this sheath DNA. So while this fact that she's claiming to be a plus, while it be a fact, it's not a plus, sweetheart. Because if you've got no DNA in any of his belongings, if you've got no connections on social media and no proof that he stalked them, then you literally have micro nothingness found in a button sheath, and that's it. You have at least three other unknown male DNA profiles, two at least inside the dwelling where the deceased were found, and then you have this one. And touch DNA like this can literally sit there for weeks, months, before it disintegrates enough to just be gone. So this doesn't mean anything to me. This really is the anchor of the case, the strongest point the prosecution has. They have no case. And I think that they're realizing that. I think that's why they doubled down on the death penalty, and why we see the lead prosecutioner just sitting there letting everyone else talk while he twiddles his thumbs. What is there to say? He doesn't have a rebuttal. He doesn't have an argument. And that is very telling. Because then she calls this the probable additional facts pro prosecution that we haven't seen in official documents. So basically, these are the additional made up bullshittery bullshits that she is now linking to being something the prosecution can use. If they happen to not be mythical, if these things happen to be real, then it will be a plus. But none of these things are proven. Some of these things have actually already been debunked. Now, he purchased a K-bar sheath with a knife from Amazon. Cool. How many other men out there have also done the same thing? Okay, that doesn't mean anything to me at all, especially considering this is a criminology student that wouldn't just buy his murder weapon off of Amazon. I'm sorry, but no, that's just not a thing. And then, Miss ex FBI can't spell or proofread or anything, because I'm going to assume this is supposed to say possession of IDs linked to house, but it says possession. I don't know, of whatever. Okay, this is what I was talking about at the beginning of this about how she's a paid actress. Because News Nation, she was on there saying, "Oh yeah, they belong to they're linked to King Road," and she was all about it. Okay, then Dateline came out and said, "Nope, no they're not. Nope, no they're not." And she was on there too. And then lo and behold, Christy comes out, which is Kaylee's mother, and verifies with Drunk Turkey that she heard the same thing, that the IDs found in the glove in the box were not linked to the crime. So then again, it kind of goes back to that whole open aired situation where, okay, if they weren't their IDs, whose were they? And it goes back the same way it does with the blood found in his apartment. If it wasn't the victim's, we haven't heard that it was Bryan's, whose is it? I'm hoping it's Bryan's blood, and I'm hoping these are just old sentimental IDs that he chose to keep, but I don't believe they would have been taken into evidence if they were Bryan's IDs. So just the simple fact these were taken in is concerning to me. I'm very curious about the information that's going to come out, and that might actually be something we don't ever find out about unless proof is found that wrongdoings were done. Then most likely the identity of whoever these IDs belong to, it probably will never come out, but we shall see. Next is the background information regarding Kohberger, such as visual snow, issues with women, being fired, surveillance training, security training, and Stava information. Isn't that Strava with an R? I think that's what it was. Anyway, so this must have been what she meant whenever she ran off at the mouth saying he was trained. Okay, well, surveillance training and security training at a job that you barely had for very long, not getting into the police force is not giving you the kind of training that it's going to need to take out 4 people with 1 weapon on 2 floors in 8 minutes. I'm sorry, but no. Sorry. No. Strava, his one run, you mean? His one little run that's available on Strava? Really? That's what we're going to use for this? Okay, and then let's talk about the whole being fired situation, okay? This is something that I've been wanting to talk about, and we're going to here soon. But from what I can comprehend, okay, if him being fired is accurate, it wasn't until after he left Idaho. If I'm remembering correctly, the date that we've been being told is on, I guess, the letter that he received, or the date of his firing, or the date of him being validated as being fired. All I know is that there was a packet of information that was released whenever we got Don Daniels information, and some of the documents from his so-say firing and his issues with the professor was in this 166-page drop packet, and I believe the date was 12/19. Okay, well, you can't blame a firing that happened over a month after the murders on the reason why he would have committed the murders. It doesn't work like that. And then it states his cell linking to Bluetooth. Now, I know that there has been talk about there being a possibility that Bryan Kohberger's phone possibly linked to the King Road house somehow. And we have seen like internet provider warrants, I believe, in the case, in the listings. Now, Christy Gonsalves had mentioned to Daniel with Drunk Turkey that If Bryan Kohberger had a device that could do this linking, the King Roadhouse had the equipment to detect said linking. But as for anything actually being validated as being linked from the King Roadhouse to a specific device that Bryan Kohberger owns or had in his possession, none of that has been verified. None of that has been said to have been true. And whenever you go back to the state has validated that the defense has everything that the state has seen, and the defense is stating based off of everything that the state has given us, and they're telling us that we've got everything that they've seen. I'm going to double down on saying that. That needs to be a very important factor here. There is no connection. That means that most likely there's no links found between his devices in this house. That could all change if the reports of validity are ever received by the state to be handed over to the defense. But as of now, no connection means no connection, you guys. It means no connection. Okay. Now, this is another thing that she does, which is just talking out of her butt. All right. Other information that could help pros or def. So things that could help either the prosecution or the defense. Google searches. Yes, stupid Google searches will get you caught up, okay? But also, if it comes out that he is just Googling the crime after it happened, he's a criminology student in that area. We've already been told by people that are in his class that they were discussing this in class. So Google searches could go both ways here, honestly. Pure curiosity or bad curiosity, I guess is another way to put it, to be the opposite. SM evidence. I don't know what that means. I thought maybe subject matter evidence, possibly, but I'm not positive. SM usually means subject matter in these kinds of things. I'm not positive. Footprint, and then she has prints at 1122 king size, okay? But for one, we've never gotten a shoe size from the print. Nothing valid has ever come out about the latent shoe print that was found during the second processing of the crime scene in front of Dylan's door. No other information. The shoe size, I know a lot of people are talking about it's a size 9, it's a size 9. No one has ever told us the size shoe of this footprint. The only reason why size 9 even started being talked about, in my belief, is because we were told that it was like a van style sole. And whenever we saw body cam footage from a noise complaint and Bethany, or who we believe to be Bethany, opened the door, she had on Vans, and she's little and probably wears a size 8.5, 8.5, 9. And that's kind of like where all of that got started, because law enforcement has never told us the size of the shoe print, literally ever. Evidence of cleaning. That's not true. That's not true, because like we've mentioned, I find myself repeating myself a lot here. Them claiming there's no explanation for the lack of evidence, meaning that all the testing that was done did not come back with any results of cleaning. There's no remnants of cleaners. There's no proof that carpet was taken out and new carpet put in. There's no proof that something was greatly detailed or crime scene cleaned up with any sort of chemicals that he would have had access to. And I do know that she has access to Crime Lab in here as one of those things, but because I've mentioned that too. If he wanted to do this and clean it up really well, he had access to all of the agents he would have needed in order to do so. But those agents can be tested for. And there's so many different tests that can be done in order to find these agents. There's just no way that he was able to not only clean away all the evidence, but then clean away all of the clean away, if that makes any sense. I mean, at least not to me. And then it states receipts. Now, I know why this one probably looks shady, because in the documents that we received from that 166 page drop that had the information from Don Daniels and the firing in it, it did mention that whenever Ann Taylor met up with Don Daniels at Bryan Kohberger's apartment, that they went into the bathroom and removed like some sort of receipt from underneath the bathroom sink and like the cabinet. And I'm just going to tell you, okay, that's a really strange place for there to be a receipt. I don't know anyone. Okay, and I'm a couponer. Okay, I used to have to hoard all of my receipts so I could redo all my math and make sure that I saved every little half a penny that I could. All right. I don't know anyone in all the people that I know from the couponing world and beyond that keep receipts, that keep them in their bathroom cabinet. So I will say that I do find them going into the bathroom for a receipt very strange. Now, the writings seized, we don't know what kind of writings were found. I would have to go back and look at the list to see exactly what it is they're talking about here, but I know there was like page 118 from a book that was like circled. I don't remember there really being any writings, but I'm going to look into that some more. But I know that he has like, or apparently there was old stuff on, I believe, Reddit about his visual snow and stuff like that. But I don't know how that would relate to this specific crime, you know? But we went through that entire thing for me to make one point. People like her that have a title like that are on social media and on News Nation and on all these mainstream media places talking about cases like this, that don't actually delve into them, that don't actually do their own homework, that just get paid to speak a narrative. People like her are more dangerous to these cases and to the rights of the American citizens and to the rest of us that are trying to just make sure that the Constitution is being upheld. People like Little Miss ex FBI are more dangerous than anything anyone on YouTube could do when it comes to our pure speculation of these cases. I feel like I know more about this case than she does because I sit down and I comb through the documents and I actually read them for myself. I don't get handed a script and then have a paycheck signed for my compliance. People like her are dangerous. And that's really the only reason why I made this video, to make that point. I'm pretty sure y'all understand that. See y'all.